Okay, let's talk about the dovetail cutter. So maybe you've seen this before, maybe not. The dovetail cutter is a form cutter, just like the T-slot cutter and just like the Woodruff cutter. But the difference, of course, is it's designed to cut a dovetail shape. And just like the T-slot cutter, a clearance slot has to be cut for the shank, right? A T-slot cutter cuts a slot from the side. Well, so does a dovetail cutter, right? So the main difference between the T-slot cutter and the dovetail cutter, besides the shape, is that the T-slot cutter is designed to take a full diameter, right? T-slot cutter will take the full diameter, the shape of it in one cut. Unless I wouldn't take a high-speed steel dovetail cutter like this and plunge it into a clearance slot. It would just obliterate this tool. There are dovetail cutters that allow you to take this full diameter, right? So you can buy them, but I would use my dovetail cutter to side cut. A lot of times I cut dovetails that don't require the entire shape of the dovetail. I just require 1/2, right? So I would use this to plunge sideways, right? From this direction over, right? I'd plunge into the workpiece, and then I could take my cuts in 10th thou or 15th thou increments. But that's not to say that you can't take a cut and create this shape. You can. It's just that you want to be very, very careful that you rough out as much material as you can. So if this is the actual size that you want to be left with, the distance from here to here is your maximum size of the small opening, and then this is your maximum size of your large opening. So let's say it's this exact shape. So I'd want to make sure I rough out all of this material in the middle and only leave these 2 triangles in the corner for cutting with my dovetail cutter. Again, even so, I would want to make sure that I choose the right dovetail cutter for this. Now, dovetails, they provide a precise way of locating, fitting, and work holding. And this just names a few of the benefits to dovetail cutters. Now, the included angle of the dovetail is here, as you can see, right? So if you wanted to buy a dovetail cutter to cut a feature according to a print, now odds are you're going to be asked to cut a dovetail at 45 degrees or perhaps 60 degrees. They're the 2 most common types of dovetails that we're going to see. But there are many styles, right? There's many types of dovetail cutters that have different included angles. They're made of other materials like carbide. Some dovetail cutters are indexable carbide or even carbide tipped. So again, it really depends on how much material do we need to cut, what is the material, and what type of dovetail cutter do we have, and what is it made out of. And dovetail cutters, they can be found in many places in the machine shop. Like the lathe, right? The lathe tailstock, right? So we've talked about the upper and lower casting on the tailstock on a lathe. Well, they slide away from, right? Remember, we can push this, right? We can push this away from us or pull it towards us by loosening these bolts. So this upper casting we can push away or slide towards us, and that's because it mates with this lower casting on a dovetail. We can also find it here on our compound rest. So if you go into a machine shop and you just look underneath the compound rest here, you'll notice that the bottom of this compound rest is a male dovetail, and the mating section of the compound rest with the swivel base has a female dovetail, or vice versa, right? And we'll also find a dovetail on the cross slide, right? So you'll have a male and female dovetail here. And depending on the application, will determine what type of tolerance has been built into not only the dovetail cutter, but into the cut itself, right? So if we need a running and sliding fit where, we just have a little bit of grease or wave fluid, and that's what that dovetail relies on for sliding action, then we have a really nice fit.